Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to make some Christmas cards, or a Christmas card actually, using a bunch of fun techniques. This video is sponsored by TopFlightStamps.com. That's where these stamps come from, and we're going to use these on our card today. Now this stamp set here I've had for a couple of years. It's by the company Craft Emotions, and I love these very classic looking greetings. They're a kind of a vintage font, so they're not going to go out of style, and I actually just stamped out a bunch and heat embossed them and die cut them out and just put them in a dish. I know what I don't use today I'll use in future cards because they are that classic and they go with everything. I'm also going to use this background from Quetzal Craft. If you don't know Top Flight Stamps, they find all the coolest stamps all over the world and bring them back to us here in the United States. So you're going to find stamps that you don't see in your local store. They're just all very unique things from all around the world. And then this stamp set here has some other really nice vintage images and text that I think will go really well on our card. So we're going to start off by stamping the big vintage Santa. Now the index here is smaller than the size of the stamps, so I'll show you that Santa here. I'll have all these products linked down below so you can find them pretty easily. Now if you don't have a nice flat table, what I recommend is using a stamping mat. This is one from Carabel Studio. I use one side when I have to poke holes and one side when I'm going to stamp. So if you do find that you struggle with getting a good impression, try a stamping mat. Now I'm going to stamp with Versafine Clear Ink because you can use this with copic markers, you can use it with watercolors, you can use it with whatever you want. It's a hybrid ink, it's very compatible, and I want to use two colors because this stamp has like Santa with his red coat and hat on, so I'm going to ink up with the red first. And then I'm going to ink up with the black. I'm going to try not to go on top of the red with the black, but it shouldn't hurt the ink pad if it happens. And then I can fill in with a pen if I need to like define an edge or anything like that after. Now I intend to cut this out with my scan and cut, so I just want to make sure I get a nice bold effect. And don't worry if you get a little black where you didn't necessarily want it, because it will just look like a shadow. It'll look kind of vintage and fun. So it just kind of gives it that kind of old printing press look, I think. And sometimes it's nice if it's a little bit off. And then stamping on a mat like this just gives you a little bit of squish, so that if your tables have any bumps in them or lumps, it's going to help the ink and the stamp meet up with the paper. Alright, so you want to let this dry really well before you color it, so I'm going to set that aside, and while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to work on my background, and I've got a piece of I'm going to smooth tan cardstock here, and I think I want to use some distress inks here, some distress oxides. You can use whatever colors you want. I recommend you go with some kind of like vintage colors. I think I may want a little bit of a yellowy color in here too. And I don't want to do that right directly on this mat. I'm going to put my scrap paper here. I just keep using the same scrap paper over and over again because why not? Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can go like direct to paper where you just kind of rub your ink pad on the paper, or you can use like a blending brush or a blending sponge. These are color dusters. They're kind of nice if you want a little bit of a softer textured look. If you want more of a full look, you can go with a blending sponge. I take makeup sponges and I just either put them in bottle caps or in like, well, these are the bottom, these are old chess pieces, and it just gives you a really cool handle to hang on to. Bottle caps work really well too. I just fold the sponges in half and glue them in either a bottle cap or like the bottom of these chess pieces. I use this because I had these on hand. I thought they were really cool looking, but anytime I ever tried to play chess with those pieces, I found it very difficult to think quickly because the clear and the frosted and clear chess pieces don't look that different enough to identify them quickly enough, so it's not as fun to play with those types of chess pieces. And but I couldn't bear to throw them away because I thought they were kind of cool looking. I think I'll have to use a brush for this one because I don't think I have a little chess dauber the right size. Is this the frayed burlap? Yes. I just want to make sure I don't get too dark. I do like the foam better, I think, for blending the oxides. I kind of like the texture here. And don't worry about anything looking absolutely perfect because it's not going to. Okay, I thought it'd be cool to do some stenciling as well. And I have a stencil here. You probably remember that from a card we made a couple months ago. It's also by Darkroom Door. You got a stencil and a mask, but I'm thinking I just want to use the small stars. And I'm just going to put that along the edge, and I'm going to sponge it with some green. This is the clovery green color. And I don't have a sponge for every single color. I'm just going to grab whatever I have that I think is the closest match. And that works fine for me. There's so many blending tools around these days that you could drive yourself crazy trying to keep up. Just, you know, find something that works for you and just stick with it. Or if you pick something, learn how to use it. Because I think a lot of times we get frustrated with our tools because we're seeing people use them on YouTube and it seems like they're getting perfect results. And then we try it and we're not getting just the right results. But what you're not seeing is all the practice that that person probably put in to getting those results to look just so. Okay, so, you know, it's like watching somebody figure skate. It looks so easy, and then you put on a pair of ice skates and, you know, you're falling over. It's, you know, takes practice to make it look easy. And you will need to clean up your stencil when you use the Distress Oxide inks or Distress inks because it's not going to dry, so your next project will get this on there if you don't clean it off. And then the final thing I want to do is actually use that big stamp, the Quetzalcraft one here. Now this is an unmounted stamp. Quetzalcraft sells their stamps unmounted, so if you buy a set of Quetzalcraft stamps, well, I can show you actually. I have one handy that I haven't mounted yet. It comes on a sheet like this, so let me just show you one of these other sets here. So they come in a big sheet like that. Isn't that cute? So what you do when you get these is you trim them apart. And I usually just put some Aleene's Tack It Over and Over glue on the back to make them sticky, but you could put them on some Easy Mount foam if you prefer that. So I just want to show you that in case you've never bought unmounted stamps before, you know what to expect. So I'm going to take this vintage photo ink, which is just kind of like a brown, and I'm just going to ink up this stamp. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put my paper down, and actually what I want to do, I want to put my cardstock face down. Let's see, what interesting parts. I think I want to get a little bit of that postmark up there, on there. And then I'm going to rub over this with my scrap paper on there, and that's going to keep my hands from getting inky. Because if you get ink on your hands, chances are you're going to get ink on your card somewhere you don't want it. So keep your hands clean. And this is an old printmaking technique, and it really gives you a great impression. Okay. Lift off our card. Oh, isn't that pretty? So this is Distress Oxide, so if you want, you can give it a kind of a funky look by flicking on some water, which I think I want to do. I've got my little spray bottle here, so I think I'll just use the thingy-mabob in the middle just to flick on some, what do you call that? The sprayer straw, just to flick on some water. Now some people will say you gotta have special cardstock for this. All cardstocks are gonna react a little bit differently with this technique, so you know, you might just test and see what you have and notice that some things work really well and some things don't. That's fine, you know, just use whatever you like the looks of. Oh, and something else that's kind of fun is to ink up the edges. Now surely I have a brown sponge in here. Oh, maybe I don't. Well, that's strange. I'm gonna use this one. That's close enough. I'm just gonna ink up the edges a little bit. And then we can just set that aside to dry completely while we're working on other parts of our card. And don't worry about your backgrounds because, I mean, by the time you're done, not that much of your background is even going to be showing. So let's set that aside. And then while we're still being inky, let's stamp something on the inside of our card because, you know, when you're mailing out your Christmas cards and you got to write stuff in the middle, sometimes it's nice to have something already in the middle, you know, so you don't have to write every single thing. And I think I'm going to use my black Versafine Clair. I'm going to get my stamping mat back again just so I don't have to worry about my stamping surface not being perfect. Although my new door table if you saw my recent video about updating my craft room, it seems to be pretty flat. So, all right, we'll stamp that right in the center. And nice impression. I'm using black because it's going to show up on that craft, and I'm going to set that aside to dry. Okay, I'm going to wash all these stamps after, don't worry. Don't worry, I will. All right, so now what we can do is we can color our Santa Claus now that we have, now that it's had time to dry. If you're worried that it might not be completely dry, just go ahead and hit it with the heat tool for a few minutes, and that will, that'll dry up any moisture that remains, because you don't want the ink to be wet when you go to use your markers or it will feather, so it does have to dry. So something else that is important, since I'm going to use my scan and cut machine, I want to make sure, well, for a couple reasons, I want to make sure I have a nice dark outline on the outside, but also I want some outlining around like the white parts of my image, just because I think it looks nice and tidy. Also, if you have any areas you're not sure about, you think should be dark, you can go in and fill them in. But I just want to have a nice clean border so that it will be easy for my scanner to recognize. Like I could turn this shadow into a rounded shadow so it looks more like it's that pom-pom making the shadow. And I think everything else looks fine. But you can you know, you can fuss with it a little bit if you want to. There we go. And then I've got 4 colors. We're not going to do anything fancy here. I have got a pinkish peach color. This is Art and Fly YR27. Also, if you have any of those inexpensive, like Ohuhu or Arctics, I'm trying to think what other, a lot of the, or Shinhan, a lot of the companies that have the less expensive markers that use the same range. This is 26 or YR26. I think it's just called 26 if you've got like Ohuhu, which means the Art and Fly inks, you could refill any of those markers with those, which is nice because those are easy to find here. I'm going to go ahead and color in the hand. I'm not doing anything fancy. I probably could have let that dry a little bit longer or even heat set it a little bit, because when I get right to the edge I can notice a little bit of fuzzing. So just kind of be aware of that. I'm going to go over the lips again just to make them a little bit darker, and if you want rosier cheeks you can add in a little bit more pink. Now I have a warm gray one and a cool gray one. I'm going to use the cool gray in the cuff and the hat. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I just want to outline that. I just think it makes it look a little bit nicer to have that part black. So if you're doing like a batch of Christmas cards, this is so this is the warm gray. This is not going to take a really long time. You can easily color these. All I'm doing here is just making little wiggly strokes, kind of to just indicate the hair. So we get a little bit of a warm gray in the hair and the mustache. And then for the hat, I'm just going to dab in some fluff just to give it a little bit of texture. You could also glitter. You could like brush on some clear stickles. I would cut it out first if you're going to use your scan and cut. You don't want to get glitter in your scan and cut, but I think that would look really cute. Have some like clear stickles on there to give it a little bit of sparkle. And just make sure that's real dry before you cut it out. All right, I already have one cut out because the magic of YouTube. And let's start putting things together here. So this is a pretty big image, as you can see. It takes up quite a bit of our card base. Let's grab our background and see how that looks. Oh, I think that looks kind of cute. All right, now let's look at our sentiments, see what we have here and see what will go well with our design. So let's see. I like that he's pointing, so he could be pointing to whatever whatever our sentiment is we choose. I think I like just the plain Season's Greetings. All right, I'm gonna stick that down, and let's see, my adhesive roller. I'm gonna build everything on our layering panel, and then I will glue the layering panel down. So I like to do that because it keeps our background nice and crisp, and then it's so easy to trim things when we have things down on our layering panel. See, so if I glue that like that, if I flip it over, it's a lot easier for me to trim that. And the nice thing about working on a layering panel versus the front of our card, look how you know, the ink can, once you flick water on it, the ink can smear to the back side, can just kind of transfer through. So by working on a layering panel, it keeps your card base nice and tidy. All right, now I grabbed a few different ribbons and things that I thought might look cute with this. I think, let's see, I've got striped string, I've got that star's kind of cool, but I think it's too white, where this is like warmer. I think maybe just the baker's twine would be all it really needs. I also got some, oh, I got some sequins. That's kind of cool. Let's see. I wish I could ask you guys. I wish you could tell me in real time. What should I do? Should I go with the sequins? I also want to use, I want to do like a faux wax seal. And I got to figure out where I want to put that, because I might just put that right up in the corner. Maybe I'll just, I think that would look kind of cool. I like the sequins. I really do. I think maybe I'll do that. So let me cut off a couple pieces here. Oh, this is not a ribbon scissors. Are those gonna just fall off of my string if I do that? I think they'll be all right. All right, I need 2 pieces of that. Now I do have some ribbon glue, and I've never used it. I just found it actually in my ribbon drawer, so why don't we give that a try? I couldn't resist. It was 74 cents. Hopefully it's not dried up. All right, I'm just gonna see. Is that open and ready to go, or do I have to poke a hole? There was a stopper. I had to take this apart, pull the stopper out, and then it was all set, as far as I know. Yeah. So I'm just gonna put a very, very thin bead of glue. I'm gonna stop a touch before I hit the edge, because I'm gonna tape it to the back as well. There you go. Super thin bit of glue. Oh, that's right, I haven't glued him down. I don't need to put you there yet, dude. You can hold your horses, Santa. We are not ready for you in this card yet. Like, I don't want to glue this stuff upside down. I'm not sure. I don't want to have it like, I want to make sure the pretty sparkly side is up. All right, I'm just going to let that sit for a second. Make sure it's not covering up my greeting. All right, so there's a technique where you can use a rubber stamp like a wax seal. When you do that, you want to protect your rubber stamp. So you need to either use like a pigment ink or like an embossing ink, and that's going to protect the stamp from getting stuck. And if it does get stuck, which I have done that, if your stamp does get stuck to your wax, what I do is I just take an old toothbrush and I scrub it with an old toothbrush. Just pick something that's not super, that is not like really, really detailed, okay? Really detailed stuff can give you problems. All right, so now I'm just inking that up so I don't forget about it. And then I gotta figure out where exactly I want. I think I want the embellishment up there. And I think I'm actually gonna do that before I stick Santa Claus down. And what I have over here are some melted sealing wax. It's this stuff right here. They're just these sealing wax pellets. You could also use like, you could also use hot glue, colored hot glue. You could squirt out some. So what I did was I just had this resting on this candle here. So just be careful if you do that. You don't want to, like, you know, burn your house down or burn your hands off or do any of that silliness. I've just put the candle out. So what I'm going to do is just pour this. Hopefully, you can also use a lighter, or you could hold this over a tea light. I just need to make sure I have this spread out the way I want it. I want to make sure that the wax is big enough to accommodate my my 25 there. I think I need it a little bit bigger. You know what? I'm going to grab my lighter and maybe do another pellet here. Put 2 little pellets in there. These uses a lot more than you think. You could always do probably like even like a crayon. This can kind of overheat it a little bit, so you do have to be careful of that. But it is melting, as you can see. It's probably smoky. You've probably seen a little smoke. This is not how I like to do it. I like to do it over a candle, but this is a little faster. Hopefully that I can get enough there. Yeah, I got some unmelted wax pellets I need to fish out of there. Gosh, this is just a what not to do tutorial. Alright, I think we're good. Let's just set our little stamp gently in there. We're going to let it cool. And hopefully there was a large enough area there for us to be able to see our image. Now, if it happens that it wasn't enough, what we can do is we can take our heat tool and we could remelt it, and that would give us a good area to work. So we'll be back when that is fully cooled. You don't rush it, okay? Okay, I started to tidy up a little bit. That's what you can do when you're afraid you're gonna want to peak too soon before your wax is cool. I think it's cool enough. And I'm going to remove my stamp. Oh, hey, that worked out all right. It's not like I could have had a larger area there, but I think that's all right. Let's see how it looks with that. Oh, you know, I would like that to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to try heating that with a heat tool and spreading it out a little bit more and then restamping. So before I do anything, I'm going to put more ink on my little thing there. And I'm going to just see if I can, actually before I do that, you know what, I'm going to tape these to the back because that's something that I've wanted to do. I'm just going to tape my sequins to the back. This is the first time I'm making this card as well, because I was kind of running a little short on time, and I thought, well, if it goes terribly wrong, I can always voice it over. But I do want to do the real-time ones more because you guys said how much you prefer that, and just trimming off the extra scotch tape. And it does kind of show you how it really goes. You know, it's not always perfect. All right, let's see if we can melt that down a little bit. So this is just a regular old stamping heat tool. Oh, I should probably get something to stir that up with once I get it to melt. I hope this is warm enough to melt it. What could I stir it up with? I could use a pokey tool. Oh, I got one. I can see one. I got one handy. I'd probably even heat it from the back side. I'm just worried about it warping my card, but I will be using adhesive. I can see it starting to get glossy. Oh, yeah, it's starting to melt. Okay, let's try stirring it up a little bit. Ooh, look at that. Oh, we're going to have a little bit of a marble swirl going on, I think. Well, the nice thing about this, like knowing that it takes some time to heat up, that's kind of good though, because if you are putting it through the mail and you live in like a warm climate, you might be worried that it would just melt on you. This is a lot like, I mean, it's a wax, but it's kind of like, you know, melting embossing powder. You see, I want it to drip a little bit too. And I don't want it very thick, and I think I had it a little bit, like it was a little thick. It's dripping! I'm melting! I'm melting! Oh no! Wrong holiday, right? Watch your fingers, this gets hot, man. Don't burn your hands off. Ooh, there we go. Let's swirl that around. See, this is what I should have done to begin with. I should have manipulated a little bit. All right. So now we will very gently, make sure this is right side up, 25, not 52. We'll just gently set that. You don't even really need to press, you just need to like gently set it down there. All right, we're gonna let that dry again very, very patiently. So I'm gonna pause the camera, and when we come back, we're gonna put our card together. So I was thinking, while we're waiting for this to dry, and I was talking about glitter on Santa, why don't we just set this, oh, I guess we don't need to set it aside. There it is, 25. Hey, that worked all right. It let loose. Oh, anyways, I was gonna say we could put some glitter on our Wink Stella. We could use some Wink Stella glitter to glitter our Santa Claus if we wanted to. And now, well, might as well just stick Santa down with some foam tape, then we'll add the Wink Stella after we put our card together at this point. I was just thinking we'd kill some time while we were waiting, but we didn't even need to. Oh boy, live narration. And so you will get quicker. So that's the good news. If you're going to make a bunch of these, you know, you'll do it assembly line style. That first one's going to take you a long time, but then as you go, it gets quicker. So there's a chance you could make these cards and have them out by Christmas. The first one always takes the longest. For me anyways, especially, you know, you're getting your materials together, you're making all the decisions of what will go, what won't go, what will work well. Still got our yellow foam squares. All right. It's not even Halloween yet and we're doing Christmas cards. Isn't that crazy? When I used to work in magazines, we'd have to have our Christmas projects done in June. That was really difficult because it'd be like finally getting warm outside in Maine. And you're like, oh, I gotta do Christmas projects. Okay, that's all right. I like that all right. I think I might glue a couple of those leftover sequins that kind of came off the ribbon onto the card. But let's get this on there first. I want to put plenty of adhesive, but I think I'm going to put it on the base because that way I don't have to worry about cracking the wax seal, which I don't think would happen. That stuff's pretty durable. And you know, as long as you are careful and you put like the pigment ink on your stamps, you can use any stamps you have as long as they're not super detailed for wax seals. I've been a little obsessed with wax seals. Oh my gosh, I didn't even stick that on straight. Let's see if I can try that again. It's gonna look real vintage when I'm done because I'll have that wax cracked and everything. There we go. That's a little better, I think, maybe. That's how it's gonna be, anyway. And I'm gonna take that ribbon glue and see if that will work for a couple little sequins. Maybe we'll do one there. This is a pretty thick, stringy glue, kind of like Beacon. Oh my gosh, it's very stringy. It's like hot glue. And, you know, put a little bit of that on the tip of my thing here. These are a nice flat sequin, though, which is good because they adhere a little bit better than like a cup sequin. I think I got that ribbon at the Dollar Tree. It was a while ago, but I think they bring them out every year. And I think that's pretty cute. I don't know about you, but I would send that. I'd totally send it, and I'd be thrilled to receive something like that. So if you want to do a little glitter on jolly old Saint Nick, there we go, we're in frame. I would just take a Wink Stella pen. I actually prefer this to Stickles just because I tend to stick my hand in Stickles. That's why they call them Stickles, because you're going to stick your hand in it before it dries, and then you're going to be sticky. And you'll say, oh, Stickles. And we'll do some up in the hat and pom-pom as well. I think that's magical. There, that's fine. Boy, that took a long time. But I think it's really cute, and there you have it. Christmas joys bimene. There is your card, friends. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope I gave you some ideas for using some rubber stamps and inks and all that good stuff. Now I gotta clean up my mess. Thank you so much for watching. Check out our sponsor, topflightstamps.com. They have lots of gorgeous Christmas stamps and probably things you haven't seen, unique ones that, you know, just don't look like everybody else's. So give it a look if you are looking for Christmas or stamps for any occasion. You can find them at topflightstamps.com, and the stuff I used will be linked up in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.